Good morning and welcome to the daily chapter reading of Some of It Was Real by Nan Fisher. Thomas, Chapter 5. As if it makes no difference. Thank you so much, Sylvie. It meant the world. She smiles warmly. You're welcome. I give the dog a wide berth, walk back to my seat. Music swells. The audience applauds, cheers, not for me, but for Sylvie and her gift. But I know the truth. She's a fraud. And when my expose is published, the world will know too. As the crowd filters out of the theater, I choose to remain put. Adrenaline flows like I just scored the game-winning touchdown. What she said about the journal and the rest? Those were lucky shots over the bow of a sinking ship. Even a blind man can get a bullseye if he knocks back enough arrows. My phone vibrates. Daryl, meet in the lobby? Me, waiting to see if she wants to talk. Daryl, did any of it deviate from the script like mine did? Me, a little. Daryl, I'm still freaked out. Me, don't be. Either it was a lucky guess, or she figured out you were a plant and has ways to mine information we haven't discovered. I'll find out. Daryl, you really think she'll ask to talk with you? Me, it's her only chance. Daryl, have to admit I like her. Me, halo effect. We assume pretty people are good people. Daryl, are you sure she's not? Me, she sells false hope. Money people can't afford to lose for lies. Excuse me, sir? When I look up, one of Sylvie's assistants, a silver-haired guy in a black turtleneck and dark jeans, stands at the end of the row. Yes? Sylvie would like to meet with you in her dressing room. I pocket my phone. Sure thing. You must have really made an impression on her, the assistant says as we head backstage, then wind through a narrow hallway. She doesn't usually meet with people after the show? Never. The guy glances at me. I'm very sorry about your wife. My dad died a few years ago, pancreatic cancer, so I get it. His face turns beet red. Not that it's the same thing. I mean, she was young, your wife. Thanks, I say, unable to meet his gaze. Talking to Sylvie about my dad really helped. Hope you get what you need. I'm optimistic. Here we are. He knocks on the door. Sylvie, I've got Theo with me. The moment before cracking a story reminds me of being a kid, flying down a steep hill on my bike, the world streaming by in an intoxicating blur. Thanks, Charlie. Please send him in and you can head home. Charlie gives my shoulder a pat. Good luck, man. You deserve peace. Inside the room, there's a cracked leather couch on the left wall. To the right, a mirror with light bulbs around the edges. A stool rests beneath a counter scattered with makeup and brushes. Against the far wall is a small round table with 4 chairs. Sylvie is perched in one of them. She's changed into jeans, a pale pink t-shirt, and gray canvas sneakers. All traces of makeup have been scrubbed off, hair in a ponytail. Stray locks frame a heart-shaped face. She looks younger than on stage, about 19, though she recently turned 24. She's young to be such a good liar. In front of her is a mug of coffee, but none for me. That's okay. I'm buzzing like I've had 10 cups. Between the empty chair and Sylvie lies Moose, haunches coiled, ready to spring. After the door closes, Sylvie asks, should I call you Theo or Thomas? Thomas is my real name. She smiles, but her eyes, so warm on stage, are ice chips. Have a seat, Thomas. Game on. I edge around the dog, slide onto a chair. Sylvie takes a sip from her mug. I'm a reporter for the Los Angeles Times. So your card is set. I write general interest articles and some exposés. The last was about a judge who took bribes. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Did that story run in any highly regarded newspapers? Her insult comes out so sweetly that it almost could have been mistaken for a compliment. The LA Times has won 45 Pulitzer Prizes. Your dead wife must be proud. She doesn't miss a beat. If Katie existed, she would be. Moose stalks over to Sylvie, stands beside her. They watch me. It's eerie. I press on. For the past year, I've been at work on an exposé about grief vampires. They're people who prey on folks who are depressed or mourning a loss. I'm familiar with the term. The dog yawns. His canines are very long and sharp. I shift back in the chair. The piece focuses on 3 West Coast psychic mediums, Doug Merrill, Victor Grote, and you. Slowly she spins her mug. Famous company, flattering. Glad you think so, Doug and Victor. They've been around for decades, so it wasn't hard to research them. Lots of background information, interviews, some family, friends, fans, as well as victims. Victor even sat down with me. Sylvie lifts one arched brow. Did you tell him your name was Theo? I chuckle. No, lucky for me, Victor believes no press is bad press. And Doug? He wasn't as forthcoming, but I already had enough to expose him. And how do you plan to do that? What psychic mediums do isn't an exact science that can be debunked. For the past 11 months, I've planted audience members at Victor's, Doug's, as well as your shows. Put their fictional sob stories on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All 3 of you have gobbled those worms off my hook, called on my fakes, and divined their stories. I wait for a reaction, but there isn't a ripple. She may not have enough of a conscience to be embarrassed. That's it? Sylvie finally asks. Hardly, I retort. Doug had several disgruntled employees willing to share stories and photographs, and Victor's last boyfriend provided damning emails. And my employees and past boyfriends, were they equally eager? Your employees are very loyal, and I couldn't find any boyfriends. But you've taken the bait I threw out in 3 of your previous 6 shows, and today you bit twice. First with the older guy whose mom died in a hospital, even though he promised to take care of her at home. And second, you chose me and repeated the fiction I posted about Katie. Sylvie tips her head like she's listening for advice. It's unsettling. Why me, she asks. I'm no big deal compared to the other 2. Don't be so modest. Your star is on the rise. Lots of press this year. Celebrity readings, rumor has it there's a TV show in the works. Plus, I wanted to include a woman and relative newcomer. Sylvie casually scratches behind her dog's ear. I'm impressed by her calm in the face of annihilation. You talked to Victor and tried to chat with Doug. Why didn't you call me? Your number is unlisted, as is your address. I have an agent. Mr. Hotter wouldn't take my calls. He's a busy man. Call again. I tried a dozen times, and your family in Oregon hung up once they learned I'm a journalist. Her lips compress for a split second. Does their reaction surprise her? Why not introduce yourself as a grieving widower? My folks are good people. They might fall for that. She's adept at turning the tables. I did never tell Daryl, but during performances I liked her too, despite everything. Her attitude now changes that. Tell me about the male spirit who came forward. Excuse me? Sylvia abruptly grabs a marker off the table, scrawls a message on her right arm. You take the red pill. Unsettled, I say, I have no idea what. She continued to write. You stay in Wonderland, I suggest you and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Sylvie's pupils are so enormous they eclipse the gray of her iris. A shiver spins down my spine. Keeping my voice steady, I say, I have no idea what you're talking about.